Hello, my name is Voya and welcome to My Deep Guide, and in today's video we are checking out using Note Air 4C again. It comes back here, but this time we are focusing on the OS 4 updates and feature overview. What's new, what's different in the Boox OS 4, because there's definitely some interesting stuff and some important stuff that you should be aware of. So let's get going. Now this has been a little bit difficult because there are no real release notes. I mean, basically it just says like various fixes and improvements, and it's a massive upgrade. So I had to go through the whole thing and dig through and see what's what and how these things work. So, and kind of make a breakdown and see, you know, what's the easiest ways to kind of present all of this. So I'm going to start with the home screen. So right from the get-go, you will see that the OS home screen is quite a bit different than what you have on the Note Air 3C. So we have the old style OS here and the new OS home screen here. And this one actually resembles the Tab OS style of the OS systems, which is like a blend between a traditional Android functionality and whatever it is that they are doing. So what are the major changes? Well, there's a couple of them. The first one is that the home screen now has pages, and you can swipe between different pages. And down here, you can see these indications here. That is telling you where in the home screen you are. So you have the shortcut menus here, which is indicated by this multiple icon there. And this one, prolonged one, just tells you where in the home screen pages you are. Now, I've added intentionally an empty page because that's something that you can actually do on this new screen. So for those who are not familiar with a traditional Android home screen, the way you interact with it is you can do a couple of things. You can arrange your shortcuts any way you want. So you long press and hold, and then you can just drag it around and it will auto arrange. It will push others, or it should push others out of the way. There we go. So when you're on top of them, you can arrange them that way and they will move around. They don't have to be in order. So one of the benefits is that you can actually just arrange them any way you want, so that you can create an arrangement that you are comfortable with. The press and hold is not too long, so you can actually get to interact with the device quite in a good way. And remember, this is in HD mode, so if I switch to balanced, things become a lot more interactive immediately. This is not that different because you could do a similar thing in the old OS, but it was available to you only in the apps mode page. And you can still group pages, you can uninstall, optimize, manage. So all of the functionality is basically there. It's just part of the home screen. The second thing that you can do is you can add widgets. And what are widgets? Well, widgets are these helpful shortcuts that kind of group multiple type of functionalities and help you kind of have access to more practical things. So for example, you can see recently accessed documents right there in the home screen, and your recent notes right there in the home screen, so you don't have to go to notebooks or to library and then tap on this, tap on that, but it's actually right there and you can boom, bang, you're there. And then it just kind of works. So it's a massively improved and streamlined workflow, and that's something that I really, really do like. You do have an option of long pressing on an empty set of the home screen, and then you can have some control over what you can do. So you can do multiple operations here. So if I long press, and you have to be kind of precise, otherwise it will go out of the option. So if you want to uninstall multiple apps, then you select the ones you want and then you just go uninstall and the system does it. And the second thing that's also important is that when you get here, you can have settings, of course, for your home screen. You can do icon alignment, but this is where you access widgets, and this is where the widgets are. Now, in theory, you should be able to add any widgets that's factory based. So these that don't have colors or that kind of stuff, those are Boox widgets, so Boox system widgets. And then as you install apps, some apps will have widgets of their own as well. So for example, YouTube has a widget, Kobo Books has a widget, Edge has a widget, Spotify has a widget, Google Calendar, if you install it, has a widget, etc. All right, so in theory, that's great. But there's a bit of a problem here. And the problem is that I'm just going to go to HD mode so that you can see the contents really well. The problem is that while the widgets of the built-in the Boox widgets work well. So for example, this is the recently accessed apps, and that's here, so that's that. Seemingly, if I show you just this, then it's like, oh, well, that works great. I'm not really sure that it does work that great, because if I want to move this around and position it somewhere else, I'm gonna start having some issues with understanding where's what, because visually I should be able to place it here and have some more room here, but it doesn't actually do that. It will always snap here, creating visually not such a nice thing. Another thing that's kind of weird is, while I do have access to the library, if I go to notes and then back, notes will actually never appear as one of the last accessed apps. I don't understand why that's the case, but it is. So the functionality is there, but not great. There are several problems with attempting to use third-party widgets. Some of you will notice that I do have Google Calendar installed here, and I have Google Weather app here. So let's say that I wanted to add a Google Calendar widget, and I go down here. There is no Google Calendar widget, which is very, very strange, because everybody knows who's using an Android system that yes, you do have a Google Calendar widget available, and you should have it. Okay, but I do have this one. So let's add a 7-day weather. There's a problem with the widget configuration, blah, blah, blah. Okay, the problem with it is that it's too big, so you have to add it into an empty page. Okay, cool. I'll just do that. How is an average user supposed to know that? I don't really know, but I do know that, so I'll just try and add it here. So I'll just go here, and I'm going to try and add the weather widget, and it's gone. In the famous words of South Park, and it's gone. Okay, so I don't have the widget that you plainly saw me having. Okay, if I access the app, close it, go here, then go here, and then go to widgets. There it is again. Now I have it. Okay, so I add a widget. It's like, okay, configure what you want. This is what I want. Done. And there we go. I have the widget. Okay, cool. Let's resize. Like this, maybe. So that's how I would like it. Maybe a bit smaller. The problem is, it's not really displaying any content, is it? Another problem that I don't know if it's going to happen here, it's not the ghosting issue, but another problem is that after a certain period of time, this widget is going to disappear, and all you're going to end up having is an empty frame. And that is linked to the whole point that the system lost connection to the widget, as you've seen that it was invisible. There we go. And it's done. And this happens all of the time for all of the third-party widgets. And it doesn't do anything. It's not that it's just graphics. It's just gone. So, while the idea of having third-party widgets is definitely a useful one, if you think that you're going to be able to customize your whole home screen using third-party widgets, no. At the current state, you will not be able to do that because it's beyond buggy. This just simply doesn't work. What does work, however, are quick access shortcuts, and this is my absolute favorite section of the new OS, because I can just hold and add. I can have library, notes, and then I can have easy access to my Google Play Store here at the end. Come on, go away, go away. Okay, let's rearrange you over here. Come on, nope, nope, you, there, you go away. And I don't want the stupid store here, so I'll just take it out. I wish I could uninstall it, but you can't even delete the shortcut, which is really unfortunate because this basically displays all of your installed apps. So if you can't uninstall an app, it will always be there. But what you can do is maybe you can group it. Maybe I can just move it around into there and just hide it. There we go, out of the way. Cool. At least I can hide it so I don't have to look at it. But the cool thing about this quick access thing is that when you have multiple apps installed and you have multiple pages here, this allows quick access to all of the major apps or the main apps that you want to use, and then you can customize it that way. And that's something that I really, really do like. Another thing that's a major change in OS 4 when compared to the old OS are basically the settings. When you go to the settings, you can see that it's completely changed as opposed to what we had before. And we have much more subcategories, and all of the subcategories are in different places. They're different nesting, different benching. So you do have majority of the same options, but they're all reshuffled around. So you will have to relearn quite a bit of things. That reshuffling has basically moved things out of the way that were easily accessible otherwise. So for example, if you wanted to check the OS version, now you no longer have it easily accessible at the top of the settings, the first thing that you can just go and check. You actually have to go down, and it's like, where? Is it system navigation? Is it about the device? No, it's actually more settings, and then you have system update version here. But on the plus side, you do have more options and more control. So for example, if I am able to find the inputs, and that's the problem for me, this doesn't really quite work because I can't find input. So let's say that I want to find mouse settings. Let's go, there we go, and that's in more settings. Then you have more options than you had before on the peripheral settings, or maybe keyboard. And then you have physical keyboard, Onyx keyboard, or which keyboards are installed and things like that. So the cool thing about the new settings is, while the overall navigation is really, really messy, this search bar is your friend. So what you're trying to find, you can actually type in there. And my personal recommendation would be not just to learn how to just type and forget. So let's say like, oh, keyboard, and go enter, and that's that. No, I recommend that you look at the this small section here as well, so that you can start memorizing where these all additional options are, so you can gradually start to learn where these options are, and then you can start to get the grasp of where to look at all of these things and what to do. But overall, you do get more control. Yes, it's more nested and more confusing and a little bit more difficult to find maybe at first. Not maybe, for sure it's more difficult to find at first, but you do have that search setting, and overall I think over time you will be able to grow accustomed to it, but you need to relearn what you've learned as far as settings goes and the old OS options. One of the things that I'm really, really happy that that they've introduced as a change is a visual change, and that's a user interface icon rendering. And mainly it comes down to thinner and more precise rendering of icons, outlines of the icons, and fonts themselves. Because regardless of what you did before, the rendering of the fonts would always be kind of thick. All of the icons would be rendered in this really thick, ugly way. I really hated that update to the 3 something when they introduced this, because it was just so ugly and terrible looking, and it's just not a nice look at all. Thankfully, this has definitely been improved and changed system-wide throughout the whole OS 4. So all of the outlines of the icons have a nice thin line. All of the icons now have nice thinner line, and everything just looks, and the rendering of characters of the font that's being used system-wide is also much, much nicer. I mean, a very simple example here would be, let's open up the same document here, and then let's go to the menu and just look at the difference. These are the same icons here, right? But just look how much uglier and horrible looking they are on my beloved Note Air 3C, and how elegant and nice and modern, normal looking they are on the OS 4. So yeah, definitely something to kind of keep in mind. And it's system-wide. All of the icons across the board are just simply nicer in the OS 4. Since we are in the reader, let's cover what are the changes in the reader. Well, aside from the icons, I really don't think that there are any changes that have been introduced to the Neo reader, because I've tried to dig through the whole thing, and for the stuff that I normally use, and even the things that I don't use but I am aware of, yeah, I couldn't really find any meaningful changes. So no, I don't think that there's any meaningful changes that have been introduced to the Neo reader in the OS 4 version that I'm aware of or that I was able to locate. While testing the OS 4, very strange behavior. So my title, right? And I wanted to test the tag, and this just disappears. So even if I do anything, it's like it's completely gone. And yep, anything I write, okay, and if I go on lasso, suddenly it disappears. But yeah, when I exited the notebook and I returned to it, then I go, this is a test, right? And I go to lasso. Now it actually works. So it's clearly a bug and not a feature. There's clearly some scaling issues that they're using. I mean, they're saying that they're using real world scale now of the brush size, and let's say that this is 1 millimeter, right? First of all, this is not 1 millimeter. Second of all, if I go to another notebook, for example, and while it saves and loads, I guess, there we go, and I go to another notebook that's not using a PDF template, and I go here and I still have 1 millimeter. The thickness is inconsistent. So that's also something that doesn't work as it should. Notebook changes I've already covered in my in-depth review of the Note Air 4C, so I'm just going to go quickly through them so that you can kind of see that. But if you want a little bit more detail and a little bit more examples, you can check out that that part in the notebook functionalities chapter, I think name is called, and you can find that in the description in the video of the in-depth review of the Note Air 4C. But one of the major improvements or areas of improvements are actually notes and notebooks and streamlining how they function. So first of all, when you actually create here, you get the menu to create. Okay, normally you should be able to, there we go. Oh, not with the pen, but normally it functions with the pen. There we go, now it works. Weird. You get the option to just create a handwritten note, text note from a local file, which is the important part, and quick notes, which is also kind of interesting to have as an option. And in difference between quick notes and handwritten notes is just how many steps you have and how many options you have. Quick notes quickly gets you with the default template that you set up, and then you just are good to go, and it has a default name as well, while in the handwritten notes you have more control to kind of set things up here. You still do have the option of adding your own custom templates, and they are still contained in the document in the folder called Notes Templates, but it's no longer the only possible option. Previously, that was the only way to do it. Now that has been changed, which is actually quite nice. And while the support for PDF documents was added previously, in the OS 4, one of the biggest changes is that you can add, it supports hyperlinked PDF documents, and it preserves the hyperlinks. So if you want to add a hyperlinked PDF file, such as the My Daily Organizer or MDO, which you can find on the mydeepguide.com/shop or MMP, doesn't matter. You can just simply go to, when you're creating it, from local file, you navigate where you've extracted that file on your tablet, so you don't have to place it into a special folder or anything like that. Nope, you can organize it any way you want, and you can just use that document. It's not going to modify the document at all. It's going to make a local copy, and it's going to create a new notebook. Now this process takes, in the case of MDO, maybe about 2 minutes or so, because it is almost 1,800 pages and over 11,000 hyperlinks. But but I already have it here. And once you actually do have it imported, the really cool thing is that it just works like it normally would in the PDF reader as well. So all the hyperlinks work, so you can access it normally, and then make my entry, okay, or 2. And the cool thing about this is that because this is now a notebook, you have all of the advanced functionalities combined with all of the advanced of a notebook, combined with all of the functionalities of the MDO, for example, which is a hyperlinked PDF file. And what does that mean practically? Well, that means practically that you can do AI recognition of your handwritten entries. So he's gonna make my NT or 2, and then, which is really cool to kind of see. Or you can go to search, and then when you're in search, you can go to handwriting, and then you can say or 2, and then perform the search. Enter doesn't do the search, this does the search. Now, this being a long document, it's gonna take a long time for it to search, and that's the downside. It takes a long time to do search terms, quite a bit of time. But what you can do is you can enable the option to recognize in the background, and then that should speed things up a little bit, but it still takes quite a bit of time because it's 1,800 pages. So let's wait until it finishes, so you can see that if it found the correct page. And here we are. So unfortunately, the functionality, the way it works is that it waits until the whole search is finished and then it displays you the results. The ways that this could be improved is, first of all, searching can be indexed so that it can be much more faster. And another thing, maybe they could use dictionaries instead of lists. And then you can also display results as you find them. So those are practical, technical examples of how this functionality could definitely be improved, because right now it's very rudimentary, and it just goes through the whole list, and then it forms it, and then it shows you the results. Definitely can be improved, but the functionality is there, and that adds additional power to the whole thing. And then you can also take into consideration that you can use all of these other functionalities of a notebook in an already capable and powerful document such as the My Daily Organizer is. Another cool addition that I've already covered as well in the Note Air 4C, but I'll cover it here as well, is that in the notebooks you can now form table of contents, and that is now called outlines. How do you do that? So basically you can add chapters. This is something that I really loved, how it functions in on the Supernote platform. And while we do have the option now here in the Boox, unfortunately, like the links and everything, it doesn't really work well. But how do you do it? Well, you do it by pressing and holding in the empty page here, and you wait until the pop-up happens, and then you have add to outline. And then another pop-up comes, and then you have to add a title to the outline, my title, and then I go OK, and it's added successfully. And when you go to the page or outline, this is the previous one that I've added to the same page. And that's another thing, you can add multiple headings to the or outlines to the same page, which kind of is odd, but okay, I get it. And for these you can add a sub outline, which is great, but you can't add a sub outline from the page itself. You can only add it in there. Furthermore, if I wanted to add this as a sub outline, can I add an existing sub outline? No, I don't have an option to add another sub outline that I've added. So the reality of this is that it's like a Frankenstein monster. It's there, but it's assembled from these pieces that kind of work. So on paper, hey, you can do this. Yeah, you can. Would you ever use it in reality this way? Only if you absolutely have to, because it's a very useful feature. But the way it's implemented, again, Boox always struggles with this. The user experience, the usability of these features is really, really badly implemented. Aside from that, we also have some things that are not that good, which is probably other Boox users know that Boox devices and notebooks, they suffer from this kind of thing where the first time you start writing something, it doesn't, there can be a bit of a hold between it, or a bit of a wait time between it. And also if you're switching between an eraser and then writing. Seemingly everything works fine on the OS 4, but when you flip a page, that waiting time without a fault, sometimes, more often than not, there we go, will be quite long. It's not every time, but you know, I don't know. I haven't counted how many times out of 10, but plenty to make it feel, there we go, like a regular kind of thing. And not only that, but it also can happen, it's a little bit less regular when switching between an eraser and writing. It's less regular, but it does also happen quite often enough to actually be able to call that a negative type of behavior, because this is not something that you have to this extent on the Note Air 3C or the OS 3 versions of the operating system. Well, okay, so how to summarize the Boox OS 4? So let's start with the home screen. While it certainly does at the first glance look like, hey, great, they've brought back the standardization of the Android system, you can customize, you can move things around, you can have widgets and all that kind of stuff. Once you actually start to use it and you start to try and utilize all of those benefits, everything quickly starts to fall apart like all over the place, because the current state, at least of that part of the OS, is extremely buggy and unstable. So while the potential is there, it needs to be fixed and wrapped up and refined for it to actually resemble and be as usable as other home screens are on other Android devices. Rendering of the UI icons, the outlines and the fonts has been significantly improved, and although that might sound like a small thing to you when you're watching this, for an actual user, the transition to what they did with the OS 3, I mean, they just made it so ugly, so chunky and so horrific, and I'm just like really sad that I can't go back and revert from it, because it used to be nice. And then they made it really ugly, and now in OS 4 they're starting to make it nice again. So it's a good thing to see that they are going away from that horrible decision that's currently present, unfortunately, on my beloved Note Air 3C. As far as reader capabilities and performance goes and all that kind of stuff, no really meaningful changes or improvements whatsoever, which is maybe not so surprising to see, because out of all the features that is the most complete one. However, there is more than sufficient room for user experience improvements and standardization and streamlining things on how things function on the Neo Reader, because you have like two toolbars, one is there, one is here, here, and everybody gets confused all the time where which menu is, and it's like a whole smorgasbord of menu diving and guessing basically where could the export functionality possibly be in the Neo reader. I mean, there's definitely room for improvement as far as the user experience goes. Unfortunately, we have seen none on the OS 4. Generally speaking, the notebook functionality and user experience improvements are the most notable ones in the OS 4, and they definitely signalize a step in the right direction. Again, it may seem like a small thing, but the addition of having the options when you click on the plus button, and just to have the option of choosing which type of notebook you want, that is exactly what I'm talking about having a step in the right direction as far as user experience goes, as far as streamlining the usability of a Boox device in a real world. That you don't have to do a gazillion menu diving steps all of the time. All of these things can be streamlined, designed, and optimized to actually condense them down to simplicity so that it actually flows, that you have a work flow. Currently, you don't. You just jump all around the place, and it's a really a breath of fresh air, as small as it might be, but it is a breath of fresh air to see that, hey, maybe they are starting to get it. Hopefully, they are. As far as functionality goes, it's a really important thing to see the addition of the ability to add a hyperlinked PDF, a really complex hyperlinked PDF file like MDO is, that you can find on mydeepguide.com/shop, that seamlessly actually can be used as a template in a notebook. And once that's all set up and you have that notebook, then you have at your disposal all of the tools of the notebook, which are actually quite considerable and powerful, and that opens up new doors and new functionalities that you didn't have previous to the OS 4. Also, the outlines, while extremely clumsy how it has been implemented, and it has room for tons of UX improvements, the functionality is finally there. So that is something that is a step in the right direction as well, and it's a nice thing to see. It's unfortunate to see that it's still the good old Boox way, which is like, and then you get to something, as opposed to having organic, streamlined, modern type of user experience. This all of it feels archaic, and that's why it's like people are stepping over it. But the functionality, at least, is there. Is it on par with Supernote? Nowhere near, nowhere close. But you can physically do a similar thing on the Boox device as well, and that has to count for something. As it is now, the OS 4 on the Boox is, at least on the Note Air 4C, is very buggy and has instability issues. And as such, this is actually to such a degree that I would not personally feel comfortable to use this as a daily driver on a daily basis, because of the certain things that really do kind of get in the way. They do piss me off, especially after being able to use the Note Air 3C in a really easy way on a daily basis. Going to this and having even a handful of kind of things that you trip over is a step back. That being said, it does offer quite a few really strong real-world benefits and awesome things that, you know, the OS 3 version simply doesn't have. If you buy the one of the devices that already comes with the OS version 4, now you know what you can look forward to and what you can actually use and what to look out for, so that you can prepare and adjust your expectations not to get too annoyed by these bugs until they actually get fixed. If, however, you are an owner of an older device, for example, like me, like the Note Air 3C, and even though I seriously doubted that the OS 4 is going to come out this year or anytime soon, if in fact that actually does happen, I personally will skip on that update at least one version until it gets some fixes, or until I can test it out on another device and make sure that it's not in the state that I currently see it on the Note Air 4C. Granted, it's not like complete catastrophe and stuff like that, but there are enough small and larger issues that are a deal breaker for me, and that basically it's not something that I would want to use and two of which would be annoying on a daily basis enough that I do not want to deal with them. Number one would be the delay on every new page, almost all the time, but not all the time, and sometimes when you're skipping between writing and erasing, got to be annoying very, very quickly. Within just 1 hour, it was just like, okay, stop doing that. The second one was far more serious, because this one is like, you can probably overcome that and get to a sigh level. But the second one is a tricky one, and that were the instances of disappearing notes with the accidental hand gestures and no way to actually get them. Losing a full page of that content, that is a problem, and that would for me cause me to feel insecure when using a device, and that's an automatic deal breaker for me. Other things that I really don't like is that while you do have the option of technically you can add widgets, but they don't work. OS version 4, I think that it brings promising things in the future to the table, but currently it's way too buggy and there are some stability issues. But if you're eagerly awaiting to update your old device to an OS 4 once it does come out, and if it's still in the same state, I would wait a little bit until you actually get the confirmation that it's not in the buggy state that this one currently is, so that we can have a more enjoyable and a more complete experience. Alright, that's it for me. I hope that you found this video informative and or useful. If you did, please like and subscribe and ding the notification bell in the description below to get notified when new videos come out on My Deep Guide. And also do let me know about your adventures or findings or whatever it is that you may actually have regarding OS 4. What are things that I've missed? Maybe I mucked something up or something like that. So please do let me know, because there's like no release notes that I could find for the OS 4 to actually get a full list of features that I could go through. I mean, it literally says update your device to the latest firmware for an enhanced experience, fix some known issues, and here there's some specific fixes, but there's no changelog of new updates. Like, it doesn't say anywhere anything about the outline, about the added support for the hyperlinks, about any of it, and that's just really, really strange. So if you've discovered some other differences that I haven't covered here, please do let me know, because I would definitely be interested to explore them and to know them. Thank you so much for watching. Stay safe, stay healthy, and see you in the next video. Bye!